First of all, let me apologize to you because I'm not able to speak normally. About 2.5 years ago, there was a serious car accident in America, and a car ran over me, and I've been recovering for the last 2.5 years. I'm recovering well. I didn't go upstairs. I'm still here, and I'm very happy to be here. As Professor Kamakoti has mentioned, I'm a graduate of two IITs, BTech IIT Bombay and MTech IIT Madras. And then I went to the US and did my MBA from Harvard University. I don't want to sound like a cliche, but the 2 years that I spent at IIT Madras were so much fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I enjoyed my teachers, fellow students, and the IIT ambience, and also some of the research projects that we did at that time. At that time, space technology in India was very much in its infancy, and Tumba had just started, and Sriharikota was not there yet. In fact, the former director of Sriharikota is sitting right there, Shankar Iyer, and we were classmates together. Now he was working in my companies. And at that time, the technology was protected by the US, and it was not given easily to India. And we, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, we came up with the fundamental equations without any help from advanced countries to lay down the foundations of rocket science. I'm not claiming credit for it. It's just my whole group of people that are senior to me, people that are junior to me, and then the trend continued. And if you notice, India's space program is an example for the whole world right now. We launch satellites at fractions of the cost that other countries spend on. So anyway, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to hear all the nice things that Professor Kamakoti has said about me. So it's very gratifying that the director of a famous institution like IIT Madras recognizes me. One question that is an interesting question, I would like to answer it before you ask, is why am I doing this? That's a good question. A lot of people are rich. A lot of people have a lot more money than I do. But why am I giving? The first answer to that question is sort of counterintuitive. I give because it makes me happy. And when I'm happy, I'm healthy. And when I'm healthy, I live longer. And I want to live longer, just like all of you. So happiness is very important. I give because it makes me happy. It's a very selfish emotion. So that's why it's counterintuitive. I give because it makes me happy. Now that's kind of opposite, isn't it? You're giving, and you're not expecting anything in return. So that's one reason. The second reason, one thing I've spent about 50, almost 55 years in the US. And one thing I noticed in the US is the rich people, or the former rich people, so to speak, they give generously to universities, to foundations, whether it's the Rockefellers, whether it's the Mellons. You know, for example, Harvard University, the famous Harvard, was started by John Howard. And Stanford University was started by Leland Stanford, who was a robber baron. It's called a robber baron, okay? It's a euphemism. But Stanford was started by Leland Stanford, who was a very wealthy guy in those days. And the reason why he started Stanford University was his son applied to Harvard University, and Harvard rejected his son. So he went to Stanford University because his father founded it. So he got admission. Talk about nepotism. IIT does not do that. In fact, I'll tell you a small joke. Okay, while we're at it. IITs are very famous all over the world. Even in the US, when I go to meetings, or when I used to go to meetings, the Americans would ask me, "Are you an IIT graduate?" And I would say, "Yeah." They would say, "Yeah, we thought so. We thought so." That's how famous IITs are. So what happened? The generals in Pakistan said, "Hey, what's all this IIT stuff, okay? I mean, why is it so famous?" So they came to IIT Madras and they talked to Professor Kamkuti and, and they said, "Sir, what is this IIT? What is this fantastic thing?" So Professor Kamkuti, or not him, but someone before him, this is just a joke, okay? So he said, "Well, we have very strict admission standards. There is a joint entrance exam, and you have to get through it for you to get admission to IIT. And if you do not get through it, you will not get admission to IIT. Okay? Case closed. That's it." So then the generals from Pakistan said, "Well, wait a minute. What if it's your son?" So the professor said, "Even my son cannot get in." "What if it's the son of the President of India?" Same rule applies. The President of India or the Prime Minister, whoever it is, if his son or daughter cannot get to the joint entrance exam, he or she will not get admission. So this conversation went on. And the generals went back to Pakistan and said, "No, this is not going to work for Pakistan. What are our children going to do?" Okay. So they started their own engineering colleges, and they named them Pakistan Institute of Technologies, PITS, called PITS. Well, it's just a joke, okay? So anyway, the other reason why I did it is, like I said, in America, there's so much philanthropy that goes from rich people for all kinds of activities, educational, health, eradicating poverty, so on and so forth. And I often think, why can't we do that in India? More than we're doing, okay? And what I would consider to be a small donation to IIT Madras, and the fact that all of you are here and you're noticing it, and I'm hoping that a lot of people, fellow IIT graduates like myself, who have become very successful in America and elsewhere, will also start thinking, hey, you know what? Krishna did it, why can't we do it also? So I am hoping that this will ignite a spark and a cultural attitude towards giving to our own country and our own people and making them more successful, which will make the country successful. Thank you and Jai Hind. Why IIT Madras? Oh. Well, first of all, I'm a graduate of IIT Madras. So the first answer is that I love IIT Madras. And I also love IIT Bombay. And I'll be doing for IIT Bombay also. So because one of the reasons why I do not come from a rich family. I did not come from a very poor family either, but not rich. And IITs give you a fantastic, top-class education anywhere in the world for almost zero cost. Did my master's here. In those days, I was getting 250 rupees, okay, and no tuition fee. And IIT Bombay, I had a merit scholarship because my rank was very high in the joint entrance exam. So I got this fantastic education and I didn't pay anything for it. And the reason why I'm successful today, one of the reasons, in addition to marrying my wife, Dr. Jagadamba, who's sitting here, is that these IITs allowed me to get into the famous Harvard University and do my MBA there. And because of that, I became successful in business by establishing 2 world #1 companies in science and technology. So there's because. But the first because is IIT Bombay and IIT Madras. And that's why I'm getting,
Why 228? You could have given 5 crores, 10 crores. Why did you think big?
Well, again, I go back to the same point that people that have been successful, okay, there's a reason why they become successful. And there are people that are more successful than I am, if you measure success in terms of money. So if I give 5-10 crores, and I gave 5-10 crores before, to renovate hostels and for the satellite program and so on and so forth. And then finally one morning I just said, look, we want to make a difference, okay? And the best way to make a difference is light a bigger fire so that it's noticed. If I donated 5 crores, you won't be here asking me that question, right? You're here because I'm giving 238 crores. The number 238 also comes from a different source because my gift is in shares of a company that I own, and the value of the shares is going up. So we're just valuing it at some arbitrary number, okay, for starters. And it's impressive enough to catch people's attention. That's why I'm giving 230, not 5 and 10. I've done 5 and 10, but now it's time to gear up and make it bigger.
Dr. Krishna, it's a fantastic contribution, but do you think had schools, the impact you would be making would be much greater in a country where there is still a dearth of good schools?
He says, could you have done 5 primary schools instead of give to a place like that? He's J. Sam Daniels from ETV.
Yeah, well, yes, I could have, and I probably will in the future. But these are not mutually exclusive. That's the way I look at it. For your information, Indo Ma'am and myself, we do tremendous amount of charity in Bangalore. We provide midday meals for about 2,500 children every day in and day out. We also support Bangalore Baptist Hospital. With our support, Bangalore Baptist Hospital will become a big institution in the country. And I'm a Hindu, but I'm supporting a Christian hospital because they're doing a very good job with poor people. We support an orphanage of 450 children. Orphanage. No mothers, no fathers. And we fund, it's in Chamarajnagar, south of Mysore. And we fund all the hostel expenses, clothes, books, pens, papers, school teachers' salaries, principal salaries, sports facilities, everything.
I have another question. People like
No, let me just
Yes.
finish. Okay. And some of these children have gone on to become doctors, lawyers, journalists, like you are, successful people in life. And incidentally, about a few years ago, they put up a nice. Oh, by the way, this school they do such a fantastic job of teaching science to young children. And some of the experiments that they have come up with are so creative and inexpensive at the same time that interns from Sweden, from Germany, college students, France, they come to this orphanage school south of Mysore to learn how to teach science to children. Amazing, isn't it? Amazing what money can do. Just a little spark, right? So, anyway, and it's gratifying that they had a function, and me and my wife were at that function, and then this young man came up to me and said, "Sir, I'm a graduate of that school." I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And I said, "What do you do now?" I said, "I'm an engineer." I said, "Oh, wow, that's great." He said, "Sir, you supported me. You paid for my engineering college." I said, "Oh, I did." Okay, I didn't know that because I don't actively manage. There's a department that does all this. And then I asked him, "Where do you work now?" He said, "In your factories." How happy do you feel when you hear that? And that's one of my main points.
I have another question. People like you who study in India, become extremely successful after you move to the US. What is one lesson India should learn that makes it possible when you travel to the US and settle there? This level of success.
I think the first lesson is reduce the interference of government in business. Because I think capitalism runs in our blood of Indians. Unfortunately, our country became socialist. I mean, there are good reasons why. I mean, if I go back to the day of independence, I was born in 1947, so I was too young. But I would not have done anything different than what Jawaharlal Nehru did. Because India had no capital at that time. It was a poor country. Okay, capital formation was not there. So they had no choice. But we do have a choice now that India is not a poor country anymore. We're an exporter of food. Whenever there is a famine anywhere in the world, there are two countries that go right away. One is the United States, the other one is India. That's a tremendous growth of the country in a very short span of time for such a large country. But the first thing we have to do is reduce the government rules, rationalize them. Okay. Number two, eliminate black money in the country so that there are more taxpayers, so that there's more responsibility. If you don't pay taxes, you're not participating in the system. You don't have a stake in the system. So the day you pay taxes, then you start demanding service from the government, saying, "Hey, I'm paying money to you. You serve me." Okay? So that's the second thing that we have to do. The third one is we should become self-confident. As a management example, as you know, I'm a graduate of Harvard Business School. It's very famous. It's supposed to be world number one. The first thing I did to my people in India is I gave them confidence. I said, "You can do it. We are going to be a world number one company, even though we're located in India, or because we are located in India." And we became world number one. And they did it. Self-confidence is what we need, that we can do it. most probably, and I'm guessing here, Indomem is the only company in India that's world number one. We have bigger companies than us, but there are no companies that are world number one. So that's what I'm talking about, in pursuit of excellence. So these are some of the lessons that we can learn in India. But I think it's a gradual process. I'm very hopeful. In the last 25 years, India has changed so much. Unbelievable. After I started coming back to India and started in the MEM, I was in 1998, I have seen such a tremendous amount of change in the country. I'm very hopeful. I'm going to increase our investments in India more.
Thank you.